Well, hello there, and welcome to the 4D Recruitment Method podcast with me, Jeremy Snell. Hi, how are you doing? I think we're getting towards like episode number 30 or something now with the pod. Whether you are new and this is your first episode, or you have been with us from the beginning, it is great to have you here. Today's episode is all about the subject of control, and actually change that, strike that. We're going to talk about control. I'm going to talk about control. I'm going to share my opinions on the word control. In fact, today's episode is all about my dislike of the word control, or my dislike, more accurately, of where we use the word control and the images that it conjures up in our head. So for those of you who've been in recruitment for longer than probably, I don't know, let's say 4 hours, the probability is you've heard the word control. And the word control is often associated with process. The word control is associated with people, and yeah, it's been like part of the dictionary of recruitment for a really long time. Particularly when we talk about things like client control, candidate control. Manager says to consultant, hey, do you have the candidate under control? Is the client control good? And I get invited to do training where I'm talking to a business owner who says, yeah, the team need to have more control over their candidates, or they need to have more control over their placements, or they need more client control. And I totally understand what it means, right? This isn't a lack of understanding from my perspective. My question mark really revolves around the images that it conjures up, right? Having a candidate under control. This isn't some kind of like pseudo hypnosis thing, right? Having a client under control. This isn't about marionettes and the strings on a puppet, right? Look at me, I'm a real boy, I'm a real client, right? We're not making people do things where the agenda is all about our expectation. Or at least that, in my opinion, shouldn't be the goal, right? And in fact, that's a question that I get asked by semi-experienced recruiters as well as experienced ones. Jeremy, when I offer a job to a candidate, how do I make sure that they accept it? Jeremy, how do I make a candidate go for an interview? You know, all of these things, when we construct a question where we're asking, how do I make somebody do something? It just reinforces the pictures that I have as to how people interpret the words control. If I had the opportunity to go back to the beginning of recruitment, the very first day, whenever it was that somebody decided to call this activity candidate control, this activity client control, I think I would have wanted to redefine exactly what we were talking about, because it ends up being an issue for many when they seek to control others. And there is a reputation that exists out there in the world today with human beings whose perceptions of recruiters are that they turn up with hidden agendas, that they are manipulators. It's a reason why some people would prefer to deal with us on email rather than on the phone, because they like to feel as though they are in control. And that's the reality of things, people. The candidate and the client should feel as though they have a sense of control over what is happening. Ultimately, it is the candidate's career, or it is the candidate's decision. We are there to help people to make the very best decisions that they can for themselves. We are on a journey that is far more about influence when done properly than it is about manipulation. It's not about making people do things that is good for us and not good for them, because they will vote with their feet at some point, and they do. It's called ghosting. So when we want to reduce ghosting, when we want to reduce the number of candidates who are susceptible to counter-offers, when we want to ensure that we fill a higher percentage of the jobs that we work on, it's not about control, people. It's about being in command. When you are in command of your process, when you are in command of the processes that you are orchestrating on behalf of your customers, That's a really important word to acknowledge, people. We orchestrate a placement. We do not administer a process. If you fall into the trap of administering a process, you then feel as though you need to have people in the process under control. When you are in command of your process, and the people who are going through that process, be that client, be that candidate, actually feel as though they are in control too. They are in control of the decisions that they are making, and we are there to furnish them with the right information at the right time, and to be able to challenge the decisions that they're making in line with their own goals and expectations. We, my friends, are in command, and they have a greater sense of control, which means that there is a mutually beneficial relationship that exists between us and our customers, which means when there is times of challenge, think about this for a moment. Think about how frequently someone somewhere out there today is throwing their phone at the wall because that client has decided to offer the internal candidate and they've never been mentioned before. And somebody says, oh, you should have had them under better control. Or think about the person who throws their phone at the wall when that candidate says, I'm sorry I didn't go for the interview today, or worse, just disappears off the planet. Well, you should have had your candidate under more control then, shouldn't you? No. You should have had more command over your process. You should have created a greater level of ownership in the people who were going through that process so that they felt more control. Wouldn't it be better to get a phone call from a candidate who's saying, I'm considering not going for the interview because, and I wanted to talk with you about that to see what your perception was. And they did that because they felt as though you were there to support them to make the best decision, rather than you were there to give them a Chinese burn to make them do something that they didn't want to do. This is all the sophistication of being in command. And to be in command of processes requires good levels of communication. It requires high levels of empathy. It requires us to be very good at helping other people to feel as though we are there genuinely to help them with a mutually agreed agenda, rather than there to have a subversive agenda that perhaps could lead to a sense of being manipulated. So when a candidate feels in control, and a candidate feels as though we're there to help them with the best possible quality of service to help them to make good decisions, they start to turn to us for advice. They start to become more candid. They become more transparent. They tell us more of the truth earlier, rather than revealing the truth that we discover in hindsight. So if I sound a little boiled here, I don't actually feel boiled. I just feel a little bit disappointed that we misappropriate good intentions by creating the wrong word that then creates a perception that it's all about my way or the highway, my deal or no deal is all that there is here. A well-mapped process, a clearly agreed set of objectives that are created between me and my candidate. When I engage with my candidate, and from the very first touch, and that touch may not actually be us talking, it may be the in-mail that I send to them, the email that I push through to them, the beautifully crafted advert that they see in their peripheral vision as they are doing some research in preparation for asking for a pay rise, not with the intention of looking for a job. And they're researching adverts to see what the market is paying. And they can't help but feel tractor beamed into my advert because it delivers three things to them. They feel significant, they feel understood, and they feel safe. At every step of our process, whatever our process looks like, if we can ensure that we are increasingly giving that sense to our candidates of being significant, like they matter, we make them feel understood, and we genuinely know what their drivers are and their motives are and their expectations and their goals, because we have encouraged a level of transparency that is only possible when they feel safe. So significance and understanding and safety are really important because it helps them to feel that sense of control. And they start to turn to us as being an expert because we are in command. We are willing to challenge them on some of the decisions that they are making. We are willing to ensure that they recognise the choices that are available to them. Like the simplicity of dialing somebody. As I pick up my phone and I dial this person who is a legacy individual on my database, or a legacy CV in a CV portal, and I talk to them about an opportunity and they say, hey Jeremy, I'm not looking for a job at the moment. If I'm in command of my process, then I know that that is what I need to hear. Because I know that when they say that, they are going to be in the majority of the good people, rather than the minority of the good people who find themselves looking. So I'm looking for somebody who is saying, hey, I'm not looking for a job at the moment, and I'm totally ready for it. And I tell them, you know, that only makes me more interested in talking to you. And it reinforces why it's so important that I come to you rather than waiting for you to come to me. What could stop you talking to me for the next 5 minutes to explore this so you understand why I chose you? Right? That, my friends, is me being in command. That is me giving them a greater sense of control rather than trying to hoodwink them into a conversation and trying to force them to do something that they don't want to do. Like if they say, hey, I'm happy where I am, and I just lean into that and go, hey, that's great to hear. What is it that makes you so happy? I'm not actually dealing with the actual issue here. I'm trying to swerve it. I need to pick it up and do something with it and show them. The words that you've just said to me, they encourage me greatly. The words that you've just said to me reinforce that I'm doing the right thing. The words that you've said to me show me that you are good at what you do. And maybe if I suggest to this candidate, the fact that you say that tells me two things, and I'm sorry if this upsets you. It tells me you're good, and it tells me you're well looked after. And because of that, you spend less time thinking about what else may be out there. I'm not asking you to leave. I'm merely asking you to consider things for somewhere in the region of 6 minutes. And we create a risk to reward. The risk is 6 minutes of their life. The reward is so much greater. These are the things that become the tactical opportunities that we have to start to orchestrate a placement, not administer a process, to start to demonstrate to the people that we interact with there is purpose to what we do. We're not fishing looking for the unhappy. When we encounter the unhappy, we can work with them, right? But we're in command of what we do. And when we're in command of what we do, and we can start to show them the rhyme and the reason and the logic and the emotional decision that we're actually asking them to make, which is to commit to 6 minutes of conversation, not to resign tomorrow, not to have to go for an interview on something which is clearly unsuitable, not to feel blagged into looking at job descriptions and then forever get chased by a recruiter who misinterpreted mild curiosity as being genuine interest, and then to get ghosted, and then to say, fucking candidates, and to have my manager say, well, you need to have more control, don't you? And I start to become even more controlling, which puts people off. No, you need to have more command. You need to have a better understanding of the process that you are orchestrating. And you need to be able to demonstrate to people the level of control that they have as to what is actually happening, so that they feel safe, so that they feel as though it is worthwhile investing the time to truly share where they're at and what they're doing. And you start to make them feel significant because you chose them. When somebody feels like they are an entity on a database that is being tickled to see if they will giggle and be put forward for a job, no one's really up for that. The uninvited tickling of recruiters is often met with, I'll stop you there, I'm happy where I am. I'll stop you there, I'm not looking for a job. I'll stop you there, I don't enjoy being tickled. And that recruiter then has to go on to find another and another and another, and may even get to the end of the day and say, boss, I couldn't find anyone for the job. I'm starting to think that no one is looking at the moment. No, you found plenty of people for the job. What you failed to do was to have enough command of the process and to understand what it was that you were actually trying to achieve, to be able to create the level of safety that is required for them to feel in enough control to go, do you know what? I will talk to you for 5 minutes. And I totally get the fact that you're not asking me to resign. And I totally get the fact that you don't know enough about me to be able to say with certainty that it's ideal. And I totally get the fact that me simply spending 5 minutes with you doesn't automatically mean that you're going to think that I'm interested. You're just giving me more time to make a better decision for myself and to have more control. I respect your command of the process that you manage, and I am now willing to engage with you. So I hope everyone's with me in the way that I'm describing this, right? The word control is damaging. The word control is totally appropriate, but the control belongs to the candidate. The control belongs to the client. When the client tells us, hey, I'm not willing to pay more than 15%, and we are in command of our process, we don't really have to do anything other than show them. You are significant in this conversation and your opinion matters. I'm going to seek to understand all of the reasons why you say that and the experiences that you've had that have accumulated together to create your perception of value of recruiters in this space. And I'm going to allow you to feel safe enough that it is okay to have that opinion, and it is okay to have that opinion about other agencies. And I'm going to earn the right to show you why I believe there could be a difference. And the only way that I'm going to get you to be willing to listen to my opinion is to start to show you I'm genuinely interested in yours. So I need to be as open to the idea of agreeing to 15 as I am to getting them to be open to the idea of agreeing 30. And that might be a slower process. It might take 12 minutes instead of 60 seconds. And I'm now in command. I'm in command of a process that I am now managing, which is the process of justifying in a world of mundane 15%ers what it actually looks like to encounter someone who is worth 30. And because I'm in command of that process, they can feel in total control that they still can make their own decision. But what they can't do is to make a decision on behalf of my business just because it's what their business wants to do based upon experiences that they've had with others. Command people. So I kind of throw that out there as being a challenge to the industry. I also throw that out there as being something that I feel starts to create part of the fabric of being different. The essence of the 4D recruitment method is about creating difference of experience all the way through the process. The essence of the 4D recruitment method is all about the orchestration of something that wows somebody. And the essence of the 4D recruitment method is to remove the opportunities to create the cross-references between you and other agencies, because it becomes harder and harder to say others like you, because there are very few out there who are like you, but there are many who claim to do what you do. But they can feel the difference, they can see the difference, and they are willing to pay for that difference and to commit to that difference. So people, squad, listeners, those of you who are still hanging around at the end of this pod, take a moment or two to reflect on how you define control and who you feel should have it, and what it would mean to be in command of processes, and how explicitly you'd need to be able to not just understand your process, because that's administration, to be able to do it, but to look at the tactical ways in which you bring that to life so that you orchestrate placements by following your process, by being in a greater position of command of what you're doing, and being willing enough to allow others to have that genuine sense of control that allows them to make the best decision for themselves. Because if the job ain't right, the job ain't right. Sometimes they're wrong and we need to challenge them, and they're willing to accept that challenge when they feel like we're doing it with their best interests at heart, rather than simply to manipulate a statistic to help us to achieve a CV out, an interview arranged, a contract fulfilled, because we're on a journey which is more meaningful for them, which in turn becomes more meaningful for us. So hey, let me know your thoughts on command, control, and all of the things that I've, to a point, witted about, right? And if you would like to learn more, you can join the membership waitlist. You could join the 4D recruitment method group. And yeah, I'll be sharing more tactical ways to be able to bring that to life with everyone who chooses to join. So maybe see you on the other side, right?